After watching 297 episodes of Adventure Time related content, playing 5 real Adventure Time games, mobile apps do not count, and scrolling through many miscellaneous Adventure Time databases, fandom forums, and all that other nerd stuff, I finally made a cohesive list of characters to add to the tier list. No more dawdling, cause what time is it? Adventure Time! Starting with the first baddie, ew, gross. I don't want to call Ice King a baddie. Let me reword that. Starting with the first villain in our hour-something-long video, we have the Ice King, a crazed super threat and villain turned hero, hero adjacent. Formerly known as Simon Petrikov, Ice King has the abilities of the cold. He can shoot snow and ice, fly with his beard, and is also a musical prodigy. Oh, and he has dandruff that can cause pandemics. The less said about that one, the better. Although he isn't mentally all there, whatever plans he has to kidnap some princesses always end up in smoke. So with his incompetence and literal insanity in order, he's a B-tier villain, I feel, as he has been able to defeat and incapacitate Finn and Jake from time to time. He even helped stop Lichified PB at one point, which, hey, you know, that's a feat and a half right there. That said, his craziness makes him unfit to use his crown to its full diabolical potential, hence us putting old Petrikov a few pegs away from S tier. Sorry, man. Alright, that's one villain down, and many more to go. Let's start with Simon's surrogate daughter figure. Kind of ironic, huh? Marceline is technically an anti-hero, but we'll lump her in as a villain here, as her initial first appearance was that of an antagonist. Marceline is very much capable with her thousands of years of messing around, fighting whoever was in her way, and rocking her sweet bass. Wonder if her and Ice King have anything in common. With her amazing fighting skills, ability of flight, pyrokinesis, and even shape-shifting abilities,
I wanna be alone right now!
Marmar can dish out tons of damage. Would you want to mess with this human-bat hybrid thing? I thought not. But that's just the main series. In the Fiona and Cake special, she's seen to be a serious threat if she were to go to the darker side. You see, in the Fiona and Cake spinoff, Simon tries to get back with Betty, who is now turned into Gulp. More on him later. While trying to find Betty, Simon heads on a multiversal journey, and in one universe, we get a glimpse of a much darker version of Marceline. She's decided to turn to the dark side, and join forces with the Vampire King. Not Darth Vader. I just realized how that sounded. Oh, also, we'll get to the Vampire King later. Don't worry. Anywho, good thing Bubblegum and Finn were there to help her stay on the righteous path of good in the original series. P.S. Keep your red belongings away with her. She eats the color. And she's a vampire, so, you know, she's immortal. That's S tier for sure. Time to look at the gnomes.
I'm a gnome, and you've been...
Jokes aside, these guys are messed up. Weird to say, but these freaks are both dangerously powerful and also a non-threat at the same time. After tricking Finn and Jake to let them free from their boiling cauldron bath, they obliterate a few old ladies. They just blow them up like they're nothing. What the hell? Thankfully, Jake easily grabs the freaks and tosses them back in the pot, where they belonged all along. They're dangerous, but if all you need to do to take them down is to toss them in a cauldron, that's a no. D tier, because sadly there are more pathetic villains coming in soon. Oh look, another Ice King related villain. Kinda seeing a pattern here. Ricardo the Heart Guy is the heart of the Ice King. Man, I had heard of heart problems, but this is ridiculous. Ricardo was a very intelligent individual, coming with a hefty master plan to get to Princess Bubblegum's heart. Literally. But truthfully, he's not the brightest when it comes to combat. Like, even Princess Bubblegum was able to take him down. No weapons and all. This guy's as threatening as a child having a tantrum. I'd say even with his little body he grows later on, he's more so creepy and less so actually dangerous. D tier. The businessmen are very early Adventure Time characters who didn't really fit with the flow of the endgame of the show. Fairly simple, just some guys who want to conduct business and be told what to do. Finn hires them to make obstacle courses and even build a giant mech. Man, it looks like these guys really know how to get down to business. Overall, Overall, they just kind of went back to their frozen prison and were whisked away, never to be seen again. Could be a serious threat, but they don't have the mindset. C tier for sure. Next is Tiffany, Jake's very beautiful friend. An obsessive little dink who had a lot of Finn's love for fighting, but none of the spirit. He's planned numerous schemes to get back at Jake for abandoning him. Sheesh, get a life, kid. Ultimately, Tiffany serves as a decent foil to Finn and makes a good villain, although he's not nearly as powerful as some of the other characters on this list, but he's much more powerful than some others too. We'll give him a good old B tier. What gives Tiffany an edge over some of the other folk? Seems like they're more obsessive than dangerous. Also, being a former member of Jake's old gang, thus giving us a more in-depth look into his Jake obsession, is also a bonus. Here's Penny, a local from the City of Thieves. Literally just some kid who tricks Finn and Jake to steal stuff. Then we never see her again. Not important. Could kick into a field goal, all things considered. F tier. Candy zombies are pretty much normal zombies. That means they're slow, but pretty good at tearing things apart and eating the flesh of others.
Chew on Good one, Finn.
Although to be fair, there is a cure for them, which is kinda a big drawback for a list like this. But on the other hand, do we have a means to that cure? I mean, I guess since in most media, zombies do take over the world, I'm gonna have to say, counting on if we have a cure or not, A tier. Look at how close the entire Candy Kingdom came to a zombie apocalypse. The Fear Feaster, though being more of a mental stress kind of thing, causes more than a few problems for Finn. He's this black cloud thingy that lives in Finn's belly and has access to every fear the human boy has ever had, and preys on his fear of the ocean in particular. I'm going to have to say that this one might be controversial, but due to the fact that the Fear Feaster is pretty much Finn's mental trauma and fear rolled into one weird black gastral muck, I'm putting him on A tier, because you can always be your own worst enemy. Demon Cat is pretty much a one-off villain with the running gag of him almost knowing things. He gets Finn's name wrong pretty much every time.
Greetings, Frank the Human Boy.
And if you want to be a real dork about it, he is a parody of the Decipher Beast from Dungeons & Dragons. Pretty standard one-off villain, but I'm gonna put him in high C, because, well, he is a giant tiger-like creature. Pretty sure I'm not winning that fight.
You should be afraid of.
In the same episode, we have the Bucket Knight.
Bucket Knight!
Okay. Do you know how to get to the Crystal Eye from here?
Not much to say about him. Dangerous, pretty much unstoppable for any normal man, but it doesn't seem like he's into world domination. Just there to take Finn to the knuckle train to fist Planet. I'd say low B. And the last villain we see in the dungeon episode, the Guardian Angel. She seems to have healing abilities and the power of flight. That seems to be all she can really do, as Finn and Jake take her on with relative ease. With that, I'll give her a low C tier. The battle cubes are cubes that like to battle. Pretty self-explanatory. They don't do much except for shoot little laser beams at you. I'm pretty sure they're easily defeated. Though it does take Finn and Jake a while before Jake just does his thing. I'll give them a D tier. Well, this villain sure was ahead of his time.
You son of a blee blob!
The Red Squirrel is apparently a fanboy of Jake the Dog and his web articles. He goes in to try and attack Jake in a few endings of episodes of the show, though Jake never remembers who he is. As most parasocial relationships go, we must inform people that this isn't how to be a fan. Don't attack your favorite content creators if you never hear a reply. But hey, because of his archery and trapping skills, I'll give him a high D tier. Also, I fear this little guy is rabid. Nobody likes rabid animals, especially rabid squirrels. Magic Man is a complicated guy. He's dead set on being the biggest jerk on the face of the planet. Heck, probably the universe. He is on the wonderful little planet of Ooo, just to goof off and be a complete nuisance to those around him. Magic Man is powerful, but that power is limited. Sometimes. Though things seem to have calmed down since he became Normal Man, I don't trust him. I believe there's nothing in those eyes but sheer unadulterated sociopathy. It's weird too. Magic Man seems to have a lot of baggage. A griffin that's imprisoned in a jar that he's holding hostage.
I need therapy.
A small little bag with small versions of all the other characters from Adventure Time throughout the series thus far. He even turns Finn into a giant foot for no reason. Like, again, he's just a complete and utter jerk for the sake of being a jerk. So, all things considered, he's a high B-tier villain. The Gut Grinder is pretty much an evil Jake who wants to go and steal. They're physically strong and can go toe-to-toe with Jake, but when Jake takes the Gut Grinder down, it's revealed to be the wife of the mayor of the Spiky Village. Not a major threat, but a total villain. C tier. Wendy, Boo Boo, and Gregory. These guys are Marceline's friends, I guess. They bully Finn and Jake throughout the entire episode and are just a nuisance. Okay, so we can't really confirm if they're world enders, but they're extremely dangerous considering, well, they're ghosts. Intangibility goes a long way, but sometimes they just aren't? I'll have to give them a low C tier on this list. Here's the Oozers. They're pretty much the same thing as the candy zombies, except we do see them take over the world. Because, you know, that's what happens when the Great Mushroom War happens. And also, they aren't candy, they're people. How delightful. A tier. This here is Hunson Abadir. Hey, that rhymed. He's the biggest, baddest dude in the entire Nightosphere, the biological father of Marceline the Vampire Queen, and just another complete jerk.
Hey!
From being the overlord of what seems to be Adventure Time's version of hell, his crimes are pretty much standard S-tier villainy, sucking the souls of all inhabitants he could find just cause, and singing a catchy little song while doing so.
Sucking their souls, stomping on it, souls.
Giving his people wish requests that he puts a cruel twist into, and the worst crime of all, eating his daughter's fries? This man is simply unforgivable. He's also immortal, incredibly manipulative, has an army of his Nightosphere subjects at his disposal, and as you saw, can turn into this horrifying monstrosity. S tier, absolute bad guy with no redeeming qualities. Sir Slicer, this guy is a joke. Some creep who bullies and follows around a kid and his dog all day. Honestly, nothing impressive aside from his stupid armor that he can't even get up from. Push him down, he's no threat. F tier.
No, I've been searching all
Wait,
over Ooo for
another
the
batch of
ultimate power
gnomes?
source.
Well, let's see. I guess they are a bit of a threat. These guys are much more scientifically sound than the other gnomes and even managed to kidnap Finn. They've got this upturn overdrive thing that they want to use to turn the world inside out, but they need a power source to get it going. So they resort to a child? I don't get it. Not a real threat though, all things considered. Back to D tier, you losers go. Time for the Tree Witch. Here we have a one-time villain so pathetic she just sits there. On Jake specifically, and with her, mass, she's able to pose as a threat, but only to Jake, cause, you know. Though in the end, she's a joke. F-tier one-off villain. Here are the Pod Pigs! These adorably evil creatures come from a pea pod that was destined to produce pure heinousness, and sure enough, they live up to that prophecy and then some. They head right off to cause havoc for the sake of pure evil. So yeah, lesson learned, never trust anything cute. Also, they can be defeated via ice cream. They kind of struggled to even take over this little village. As unsuccessful as they were, I wouldn't necessarily call them just F-tier villains or anything. I do see them as a slight threat. So I'm going to give these little pigs their well-earned D-tier placement for their troubles. Oh yeah, I get to talk about this little freak. Zergiok the Goblin King is one of the most interesting characters to me because of how insane he was. He would always spank his subjects to the point where they were always ready to present their butts to him. Ready to be spanked. What the f is wrong with this guy? This man must have had a kink of some kind or something, because it's just so telling how submissive the rest of the goblin villagers are. They would go, "Ooh, Zergiok, you're so bad," and bam, present their cheeks. I don't know what his deal is, but he is most definitely dangerous, if not completely stupid and a danger to himself. Just take out his eyes and he'll be chill. I'll say low C tier. Here's a Quandrius, a being who physically can't hurt you per se, but will trick you into making stupid decisions if your IQ is literally that of a goldfish, like these hot dog people.
I wish to blow up. I mean, like, get big.
Wow, you guys are really stupid.
What do you mean?
Thankfully, Finn was able to outsmart this weird, slimy snake thing and get out with all of his friends in tip-top shape. I'm gonna give him high D tier. Sure, he can grant wishes, but he can only hurt you if you aren't careful with your wishing. The Lich. Oh boy, what can I even say about the Lich that hasn't been said in numerous videos? This thing is the end-all be-all of villainy. The lowest of the low, the most wicked, horrible, putrid being in all of Ooo. Hell, all of the universe if we're being honest. The Lich's abilities to submit minds in an instant is scary enough as is, but there's so much more to him than that. He can manipulate green flames into his hands, inhabit the minds of other beings, dead or alive, and to top it all off, he's immortal. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, there is no way to truly stop the Lich. He is an unloving, ungodly state of destruction and terror. He's a being that's reincarnated across time as a world-ending comet, and shows up in universes where he literally was wished out of existence, all just to try and cease the existence of all life. With that, we're putting the Lich at the very tippy top of S tier on this list. Just for now. We'll talk about him later. Look, man, these things aren't a threat to anyone. I mean, granted, Finn sent them to Ice King, and it seems that Cute King beat the old timer up, maybe? We literally never see these guys again, so knowing Ice King, he froze them and killed them or something. F tier. Sorry, cuties. Don't let that name fool you. Fight King's powers are indeed scary, with him being able to imprison the souls of those who want to fight for all eternity in his arena. He himself doesn't do any fighting, but having control of the arena itself makes him a threat. That said, just break his oversized sword and poof, he's history. I'll say he's dangerous for someone entering the arena, but won't take over the world. Not his style. C tier. This guy. So, you know how Magic Man is pretty much a jerk for the sake of being a jerk? Ash is that, but more down to earth. You'd actually run into someone like him in real life. Gives off major trust fund kid vibes. Heck, when Finn and Marcy beat the snot out of this clown, he even asks for his mom. So yeah, this guy has been pathetic since his debut, but it doesn't stop there. At one point, Simon, not Ice King, but normal, no magic having nerd Simon, punches him in the face. Also, just to add here, Simon is literally dying, so Ash is a complete punk. I was gonna say D tier, but considering Simon is a weak, feeble, and dying human, Ash is getting an F tier placement. Good riddance. Let's take a look at Scorcher, the VIP, the guy who nearly took down Finn and Jake. He's an incredibly dangerous hitman for hire who's hell-bent on getting the job done. He's a being that can control fire, or he's made of fire? That part even confuses Ice King.
Made out of fire. Or he commands fire, maybe?
Anyway, this man can manipulate fire into a blade, blast fire projectiles, make smog out of fire to surround his enemies, and can even fly. He's so powerful, he can defeat other bounty hunters and even scared Finn and Jake.
Oh, my life!
And these guys have seen just about everything. Sad to see him as a one-off villain, because I'd like to see just how strong he is. As is, he's not really a worldly threat as he's just a hired hand, so let's just say he earns a very high B tier. Oh, geez. We gotta talk about this guy. If you know, you know. This weird antisocial freak of nature created by Princess Bubblegum is just the worst. He goes into people's houses, threatens to throw them in the dungeon, tortures his subjects, hell, he eats his own clone of himself. So not only is he an annoying little freak show of a man, he's technically a cannibal on top of it all. Now, we need to think for a moment. Is he a threat? Well, I don't really know. I'm more concerned with why Bubblegum lets this man-child roam around Ooo. Even though he's still more of a danger to himself than to others, though he does have a pretty cool sword. I'll budge and give him a D rank. He's just got a sour attitude at the end of the day. Wait a minute. Hey guys, remember Jaybird and his gang? You know, the classic Smudge, Wormo, then we got Dr. J and his nameless gang of thieves? Though they seem to be just that, thugs with no real threat. Well, they incapacitate Finn and Jake, which isn't a feat that's too easy. Screw it. The Jaybird and Dr. J's gang gets a slightly mid D tier. Stag is a freaky looking deer thing, but don't be mistaken, this disgusting doe is strong enough to knock Finn into a coma for 6 months. He also spreads his disgusting gross saliva onto the citizens of the Candy Kingdom and sticks them onto his sewer walls, for some reason. Luckily, Finn and Jake found his secret weakness. dropping cinder blocks onto his head. Yeah, that'll do it. Come to think of it, that's probably a lot of people's secret weakness. After that, it was time for the deer to depart down the drain. Very dangerous, very evil. Though not a world ender, he imprisoned a city single-handedly and concussed their only 2 heroes. He's a very high C tier in my eyes. Meow is sort of a kinda one-off villain who is an assassin. Using size to her advantage, she definitely poses a threat to others, using knives and poisonous items to take down opponents up to 50 times the base size of Jake. She grows up in later episodes, but she's really not much more threatening as she has trouble taking on BMO for crying out loud. I'll give her C rank. Yeah, solid C rank. Good job, kid. Sadly, that's not gonna be enough to stay in the Guild of Assassins, so, not good job, actually. The Forest Cyclops is a giant Cyclops with healing tears. Not much to say here. Massive, dangerous, not a world-level threat. Low C tier. Size and magic can get you places, folks. Flame King is a pretty standard fire elemental. He's a flaming fiend who has a habit of trying to convert his daughter to the side of evil, and also starts fights with anyone he sees. He's a bad guy. What can I say? He's a pretty generic villain, but he is voiced by Keith David, so that gets points.
Speak!
Isn't the brightest bulb in the box, though, so I'll have to give him a solid C tier. His daughter, on the other hand, ooh, wow, she's got problems. This is Flame Princess, a girl that's around Finn's age who seems nice at first.
She seems normal.
But then we find out the truth.
So that's where I came from.
Yeah, she's a terrifying little firecracker who is tough, emotionally unstable, and had a fling with Finn. Oh, and she's currently loyal to Cinnamon Bun. I don't know what that's about, and I will not go into further detail. Flame Princess can generate fire all around her body, make a flame sword from her hands, can use heat sense to detect things out of hand, such as fake trees. She even has the ability to turn citizens of her flame people into these little fellas. She can even fly? Yeah, to say that Flame Princess is overpowered would be an understatement. But she also has loads of weaknesses. She feels pain when putting out the fires that she makes. Obviously, water or ice could kill her if she's exposed to too much of it. And again, she's a young girl who's a little unstable for most of the series.
And you can't even kiss Finn without Toads freaking out!
That makes ranking FP a little tough. Despite becoming a fitting ruler for the Flame Kingdom later on, a mentally drained and manipulated Flame Princess could cause a lot of damage if not taken care of. So I'll be nice and in good conscience give her a decent ranking of A tier. Just give her an umbrella when it storms, I guess. Goliath is a creation of Princess Bubblegum who has an unlimited amount of knowledge in her mind, but it is also literally like a few minutes old mentally.
Look, Goliad, this is a preschool.
Do I look like I was born yesterday?
Kinda.
And I guess also physically. Goliath has psychokinetic powers and can even read minds. It's kind of crazy that she's so powerful. No one could even come close to stopping her, as Bubblegum had to make another creation in Stormo, which she used Finn's DNA to create. The thing is, if PB didn't create Stormo, Goliath could have potentially taken over the entire Candy Kingdom, and possibly all of Ooo. In fact, in certain episodes of Adventure Time, you can still see Goliath and Stormo continuing their battle. Their immortality was nothing to joke about. So with all that being said, I'm putting her in a potential mix of A tier and low S tier? Let's go with the A tier, but I think they're probably the closest we're gonna get when it comes to teetering towards an S rank. Technically the third villain of the series? I don't know when this episode takes place timeline-wise, it's confusing. Anyways, King Worm is a legit threat who can take his enemies into a mindscape-like prison, where the only way to defeat him and escape is by facing your greatest fears head-on. All of them.
Okay, that wasn't so bad.
The thing is, I've got a hunch a lot of folks aren't as tough as Finn or Jake. Most people, if weak-willed enough, would just succumb to the worm and shrivel away. They'd probably look like raisins by the time that big old invertebrate is done with them. So screw it, I'm going to be giving King Worm a very low A tier. The Destiny Gang are as tough, mean, and rotten as any other gang in the real world.
Yeah! How did I even get here, son?
They steal stuff, threaten the innocent, and hold an entire town with an iron fist. They're tough as nails, but also probably as empty-headed as an average gang who spreads violence can be. Very much a threat to those who come across them, but are also just human.
Clap harder, trash bag.
The D gang get a C tier placement. Yeah, unfitting, I know. Feast your eyes upon one of the most insanely powerful creatures in all of Ooo. Little dude. Not joking, by the way. This guy is a bit of an annoying parasitic little bugger that has the ability to control others and wreak havoc. There's seemingly no limit to what he can be put on. He is a living incarnation of Finn's hat after all. See, this doesn't seem absolutely horrid at first, but take a look at what happens when he puts himself on and takes over the mind of a freaking gumball guardian.
I'm a fire in my leg.
Imagine if he was on the Lich's head. That's a universe destroyer threat right there. S tier, major S tier. He's kinda like Ditto, but more fucked up.
Nope, not funny anymore. Sorry, dude, you ruined it.
Man, I don't have the patience for this animation junk. Whoever does this must have no life whatsoever. Oof.
The glitch is pretty much standard in the realm of Adventure Time, at least in the 3D world of Ooo, where it engulfs the entire world into a glitch-like subworld. I guess you could say that he's an S-tier level threat, but I don't know. Being grossed out and barfing everything back to normal doesn't necessarily make you threatening if it's just easy to gross a computer program out. But I'll give it an A for effort, and an A for A tier. 2 A's. No, that doesn't mean it's on the list twice. You guys probably know what I meant beforehand. Anyways, why am I rambling on? Jake's old gang consists of the Flying Lettuce Brothers, 2 twins who have amazing agility, talk in unison, and can use the skill of impressions to get through tight spots and trick unsuspecting civilians. Gareth is a smooth talker who can hypnotize ladies into doing whatever he wants. And then there's, Tiffany? We already talked about him, so I guess we don't have to remind you how actually threatening he is. In fact, Jake's old gang kind of weighs down Tiffany more than anything, since he's a much more major threat as a solo act. So I guess you could say they're nothing but common thieves. C tier. Maja the Sky Witch is a pretty mentally unstable and dangerous threat, collecting the belongings of people that have sentimental value and using them to grow her own power. She is quite literally a joy-sucking jerk who wants to become the most powerful being in the world of magic. She has the ability of flight, lightning-based magic, the power to summon familiars from her weird crow-rabbit thing, and Darren. He's this giant tree/rock hybrid. Maja is cruel, vindictive, and hates all things nice and sweet, even the friendship of the ancient psychic tandem war elephant in her comatose state.
I will be your friend and keep you alive until you regain consciousness, maybe.
Ugh, that plan sounds like dirt.
If not for him, Maja probably would have succeeded in taking over the Candy Kingdom, though I don't think she or Darren could have been able to go toe-to-toe against the Lich. So we'll put her on a modestly high A tier. Seriously, another gang? How many gangs are there? Look, these guys aren't anything special. They're just a gang of losers and they killed Shoko. C tier, moving on. Keoth is a demon who uses blood-related magic. He's the mortal enemy of Joshua the dog, aka Jake's dad, but at the same time, he is also kinda a bully victim for Joshua to harass. Despite being a demon, this guy is always the butt of the joke for Jake's dear old dad. Even in his big episode, Keoth, despite his power and being able to kidnap another dog warrior, he isn't anything more than just a minor threat. He just blows himself up by drinking a blessed strawberry sword.
Wait.
Also, wait a second, is Shelby a licensed priest? Anyway, not a total wimp, but also not a serious threat. C tier. Betty Groff was the fiancée of Simon Petrikov, aka the Ice King. She's smart, clever, cunning, a complete and total badass.
Tranch.
She truly is Simon's other half. But later into the series, she kind of goes a bit, how do I put it? Completely and utterly nutso. She gains the abilities of Magic Man and pretty much does everything in her power to get Simon to come back to her, even going as far as losing her sanity as she delves deeper into her magical psychosis.
I'm digging your primitive dance style.
That was until one fateful day. The final time Simon and Betty were just back to normal. I could go on, but honestly, it's hard to explain without going into another character later on, so let's just keep her ranking a mystery for now. Stay tuned, gang! Bella Noche is a gross, buttery being of pure anti-magic. He exists in another dimension and sucks the magic from anything that touches him. And considering a lot of characters in Adventure Time, well, use magic, it's fair to say that he's very powerful just for that reason. Although, he's got a major flaw. See, a pre-magic Betty was able to just knock the dude square in the jaw. So if you don't have any magic powers, you're good to go. D tier.
No! Stop! No!
Oof, I just got whiplash. The Y-Wolves are pretty much dangerous beings that explain a lot of things. Kinda like a certain someone who, might be overanalyzing the villains of Adventure Time at this very moment. The difference between the Y-Wolves and this unnamed individual, is that Y-Wolves are just as bloodthirsty as a werewolf. But don't worry, obnoxygen, the compound produced when one is obnoxious, don't look it up, can be pretty toxic to a Y-Wolf. And judging by how the world is nowadays, there's a lot of obnoxygen going around in our atmosphere right now. So, let's say D tier. Oh boy, poor Finn. If Deadbeat Dads were a tier list of its own, he'd be S rank for sure.
Wait, should we do that? Why not? I'd be down.
Guys, let us know in the comments. Anyway, Martin Mertens isn't necessarily a threat to anyone. He just kinda does his own thing.
I'm a funny guy.
Not a chance.
Vibes around with bad guys or anyone who will give him food and shelter. Though he's pretty tough, just like his son, and has a knack for escaping danger. And he seems to be just as resilient to beatings as Finn to boot.
It's okay.
Though I wouldn't say he's a threat, as he isn't trying to take over the world or hurt anyone, he's just trying to make it past life. This S-tier deadbeat gets a C tier as a villain. Dr. Gross lives up to her name. Being a scientist who experiments on people in order to make things right is always going to sit wrong with me. She used to be a teacher who would teach Kara, aka Susan Strong, and other children back in the day. But eventually, she had decided it was time to get to people's heads the literal way, as she began to prevent humans from leaving her little island by creating brainwashing technology. I'm giving her a B tier. She has the ability to take over at least an entire little colony using her tech. That's a pretty big threat right there. Next is technically Farmworld Finn, but we'll count him as Ice Finn. Ice Finn seems to be a slightly worse version of our good old pal, the Ice King. He's not obsessed with ladies or anything, and he sacrificed his sanity to save his family. Unfortunately, that was the last heroic thing this version of Finn did. He has the same abilities as the Ice King, but uses his long hair to fly instead of a beard. He's more so a very powerful pawn than all else, being used by the Lich in another one of his schemes, but he does prove a decent opponent to our Finn and Jake. I'll give him a solid C tier. You can't beat the original Ice King, kid. Samantha is a homewrecker, or more so attempted, as Jake is a good husband and doesn't cheat on Lady. She has fairly decent skills in hand-to-hand combat, being able to give Jake a decent whooping in her fight. Though I'm thinking that because he lost all that blood thanks to Keoth using his blood-sucking abilities on Jake, I'm giving her a point in the list. But she doesn't really serve well as a villain, but more of a nuisance. But because she was willing to kill Finn and Jake later, where she joined some guild of loser villains back in the episode Gumbaldia, I'm gonna have to give her a low B rank. Yeah, get mad at me in the comments all you want. I see you. I don't care what you say. Old Pep Butts, that's Peppermint Butler by the way, deserves a place on this villain ranking. Let me list his crimes. He's friends with a lot of the other evildoers that are on this list, and he can pretty much go toe-to-toe with heavy hitters like Hunson Abadir, if he isn't hanging out with them, that is. As in the background in the episode Return to the Nightosphere, there's a picture of him playing golf with Hunson. In fact, he uses his connections to Hunson and the Nightosphere to use dark magic, which he has an extensive amount of knowledge on. I mean, he can make himself a sick-ass flame sword. You don't want to mess with that. Oh, and he's also friends with Death.
What? You know Peppermint Butler? Yo, you guys can have whatever you want.
Take that as you will. There's a lot more to Peppermint Butler than meets the eye, especially when considering this is him after being stupefied by Princess Bubblegum. I'm honestly gonna give him a high A tier placement. This dude is scary. The King of Ooo. This guy just sucks. Literally threatens a child, haggles with his people, and is just an awful ruler. A true fraud and not even remotely threatening at all. F tier. Behold, King Huge. He barely moves. F tier. Here's the Shadow Slender Demons. Just some really spooky looking creepoids. Made that word up just now. But hey, they live up to their name. They do look slender. I guess you could call them threatening, but not by much. D tier. Do not let this so-called penguin's cute little body fool you. Gunter, specifically Orgalorg, is a cosmic entity that's been around since before time, wanting nothing but to absorb a catalyst comet and gain its power. He feeds on the essence of pure, unadulterated chaos and is a literal planet-destroying monster. But in his more cuddly form, it seems he's just as chaotic and strong. He can wield a spear, drive a car, ride an airplane. So let it be known, Gunter is not just some house pet for Ice King. He's a serious threat who shouldn't be taken lightly. Considering Finn was only able to beat him with a little lucky help from the grass sword, I have absolutely no choice but to put him in S tier. This is Kitten, the son of Gunter/Orgalorg. He doesn't necessarily do anything to anyone, unless you count some boss fights in the Adventure Time video game, Explore the Dungeon, because I don't know. Yes, that's the real name of it. A formidable foe in the game, sure, but in normal vanilla Adventure Time, they're really only a threat when Gunter has him help do evil deeds. So I'll say he's a high C tier. Now we've got to look at a bunch of vampires, starting with the Fool. Really, there isn't much we can say about the Fool. He's just that, a fool who has the ability to fly. Kinda a jobber if you ask me. Just a bad guy who was there for Marcy to gain her new abilities. But I think a normal person might have trouble with him. D tier. Yet another jobber. You all know what a jobber is, right? No? Well, you're all a bunch of jabronis then. It's a wrestling thing. Getting back on topic, at first glance, the Moon is very much so sneaky with her attack patterns and tries to lure people into a false sense of safety as she doesn't talk much. But when she does, absolutely terrifying.
You run in the path of my light. That's her voice?
She can whip out multiple legs and feet to scamper at lightning speeds, and she can make people's bodies go limp with just a look. Very terrifying. I'm not gonna lie, she might be my favorite of the vamps. B tier. The Hierophant really likes to shapeshift. He's a vampire who wants to do his whole vampirism thing old school style.
May I come in?
Nope. He stalks the night looking for prey and then transforms into whatever has the misfortune of being dinner that evening.
May I come?
But he also can't enter homes without being invited first. If he goes in without permission, he dies. C tier. Kinda sad. The Empress is up next, and here's what we got with her. Super speed, hypnosis, invisibility.
Ow. How dare you stake my back?
Alright, she's got a bit more of an edge than some of the vampires here. Though again, she's just a jerk who wants a meal and isn't all that interesting. I'll give her a C tier, but higher than the other vampires discussed thus far. Finally, we get to talk about the one true Vampire King. This hulking beast of a man has pretty much the most impressive feats of strength, speed, and flight of the other vampires I've spoken of thus far. And to cap it all off, he just oozes charisma from head to toe.
Let me finish my thought.
Stick you! Okay, go ahead.
He makes jokes, sure, but you can still see this guy as a potential threat. His abilities are also second to none. Telekinetic powers, telepathy, even psychic autographs?
Look inside your book.
A psychic autograph. Thank you your darkness.
This guy is truly one of the most badass and just cool villains out there. And if we're gonna talk about how strong he is and his potential to take over the world, as we see in Distant Lands, it's definitely possible for him and Marceline to go in and take over the world after the Great Mushroom War. But the question here is, if Marceline wasn't there, could he do it all by himself? I mean, I say yes. I don't know about you guys, but it's my list. So, I'll have to give the Vamp King a slightly low S tier. Marcy ranks higher because she just absorbs his powers alongside all of the other vampires I talked about. Good for her. Amo is a sociopathic little weirdo who is very angry with the fact that Mo, Bimo and the rest of the Mo's creator, didn't love him. He was almost successful in taking over and replacing Bimo, the head honcho of the Mo's, as Amo has the ability to turn his face into the original Mo and sound exactly like Mo.
You got all my love and affection.
He also was able to take down Finn and Jake with his, ball thing? I'll just say that he isn't a threat to the world, but he's still a threat nonetheless. Was a threat. C tier, a lot of Mo in that one. Bandit Princess is pretty much a very mean-spirited princess. She just has rabies and a set of parents who didn't love her. I mean, look at how weird and annoying she is. I can see that she's very much a threat. She has amazing skills in combat and is very efficient with the blade. But man, if only she could use those skills for good instead of evil. Oh well. Petty crimes and beating the snot out of folks get you a C tier on this list. Fern is an anomaly. He's pretty much an exact copy of Finn, aside from the leaves and grass and whatnot. Fern wants to do the right thing and be the hero, and wants to be who he was destined to be. He wants to be Finn. But he's not Finn, he's Fern, a slightly less competent version of the true Finn. So his tragic descent to villainy was something that hurt a lot of fans of the show. Although in the end, it was a necessary evil. Fern had formed a partnership with Princess Bubblegum's evil uncle, who we'll talk about later, and served as the champion to him instead of staying with Finn and his friends. At the end of the day, Fern is pretty alright at fighting, but nowhere near as powerful as Finn. Maybe he just needed someone to teach him. Maybe he needed something else to do. But at the end of the day, Fern sacrificed himself for the greater good. It's sad, but at least he gets B tier on our list. That's kinda worth something. Is that alright, buddy? Alright, champ. I'll take that as a yes. Here, have a juice box. You earned it. I feel bad. Next! Death. He's pretty chill. Okay, so this one was tricky for me personally. You see, I don't really see Death as a bad guy. He's just kinda doing his job, you know? But okay, let's say he does technically count as a villain. He can teleport people or objects with a red beam of light, can create an energy prison to execute anyone who he beats in a music battle, and he can even bring the dead back to life. Now, I'm going to give him a D tier, but not because he's pathetic, just because I don't see him as a villain. He's just good old Death doing his job. Grass Wizard, another dink in the world of Adventure Time. Unlike the Grass Witch, Grass Wizard is actually very useful and can be a threat, summoning grass-like beings to do his bidding, though not necessarily a threat to anyone in particular.
I am your master.
He'll be getting a C tier. I wouldn't mess with grass monsters. Patience is a very interesting character. A self-centered, egotistical brat of a character who I do not vibe with at all. She's pretty much there to crash at Ice King's place because he just loves them women and has the same abilities she does. Being an ice elemental, she can conjure the power of the frost, with Ice King himself saying that her ice powers are stronger than his own. She can handle herself fine in a fight, so I wouldn't want to mess with her. And she certainly could be a giant threat to the Candy Kingdom. And oops, she was! Surprise! Patience was able to take the elemental princesses, Flame Princess, Slime Princess, and Princess Bubblegum, and kidnaps them. Oh, and Betty too, I guess. Then casts a mega spell to cast them as their true selves, in Patience's own words, using Betty's new powers to create the spell that separated Ooo into 4 separate regions: fire, ice, candy, and slime. Patience, seeing her plans fail, she pretty much freezes herself and wants to try again in another 1,000 years. So, yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff. Technically, she did succeed in taking over Ooo and whatnot, but she didn't really have the capabilities to rule the entirety of Ooo. So with her powerful abilities and whatnot, I'm going to give her a solid A tier. Another gang? Okay, look, I already listed the previous gangs at C or B at most. What could possibly make her more...
End of the line, Mertens.
Fair point. Okay. I'll give them a high C tier. Okay? Uncle Gumbald is pretty much Princess Bubblegum, but more egotistical and a complete failure in every aspect. The fact that he's sorta kinda the last villain of the series is pretty pitiful, to say the least. He is pretty much the idea that most people have when it comes to a megalomaniac supervillain who loves merchandising and wanting to make a quick buck. Gumbald is a threatening piece of work who wants to be number one. He has a high intellect like his niece, but fails in the whole imagination realm of science where Princess Bubblegum excels at, where Bubblegum takes care of her people and loves them.
We are going to war!
Gumbald only sees them as pawns, playthings. He's pretty much the king of Ooo, but competent. All things considered, he'll be getting a low A tier from me. Because I don't like him doesn't mean that he's a bad villain. Me hating him actively makes him really good at his job. He's just super lame. Warren Ampersand, the birth father of Jake via... alien DNA impregnation? Gross. He's a disgusting alien that literally goes from world to world just to take the life energy of his offspring. And so you know what that means? He tried to kill Jake! Yep, this guy specifically targets his own children. What a maniac. At one point, Warren used his stretching abilities to make a fake planet, try and trick Jake into thinking he was dying, and little by little, sucking his life energy by the second. Luckily, Jake was able to stop it though, so good on him.
Brain time.
Warren is a threat, that's for sure, but I wouldn't call him a world ender. Oh, and he's actually the worst dad in Adventure Time. Sorry, Barton, this guy's a true jerk. Warren gets a C rank for being more of a trickster than a fighter. Hugo is seen as a genuinely nice person at the start of the BMO special, wanting to help the people in this world and get them back to Earth. Unfortunately, this was a farce. You see, he tricked the inhabitants of the planet to try and build a spaceship for him so he could go off and return to Earth all by himself. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that he's a bad guy per se, but I'll say he's a complete liar who used the gullibility of these people for his own benefit. So with that in mind, he gets a D tier placement. He's basically just a jerk version of Olimar from Pikmin. Molto Larvo was originally a small sea creature who had a family. As it died, it would go into the lava, morph itself, and after years and years and years, turn into a molten beast. Molto Larvo has the abilities of a giant monster, and, well, that's pretty much it. He melts stuff and breaks stuff. Quite honestly, just a giant monster with fire all around its body. B tier. More of a bratty teen than a villain. New Death is strong, capable of putting the hurt on anyone who gets in his way, and just wants to be king of the mountain.
I'm sure you'll hit him next throw, sir.
I missed on...
Dang, dude.
Not really someone who I see as a world ender, but will do whatever it takes to keep his status as head honcho of the Dead Worlds. For his lack of ambition, he gets a C. Professor Caledonis is a professor in the wizard school in the Wizard City special. Proves to be manipulative and tries her best to seem like a good person, when in reality, it's all a ruse. She's very powerful in the magic department, although she is actually just a crazy cultist who wants to see Kokentepe rise again. More on them in a moment. She even ends up holding a child down and threatens to kill her? Holy crap, dude. Though when she does succeed in her plans, they blow up in her face and Kokentepe kills her. Real winner right there. I'll give you a C. Hey, look who it is. Kokentepe is an ancient monster from long ago who had been resurrected by Dr. Caledonis and her crew. He had come to Earth millions of years ago, but died for some reason. But no worries, his remains were soon hidden away deep in the Wizard City. His main ability is possession, being able to control the bodies of others. Although someone only truly worthy and with potential can control its power. those who drank the blood of Kokon Tepe like Choose Goose would die pretty much instantly. Though it's different with Choose Goose, as he was able to survive somehow after drinking said blood. The so-called usurpers of Wizard City were able to contain his body and bury it under the city after his death all those years ago. His body soon diluted and its blood seeped its way into a liquidy substance, where Choose Goose had drank from a water fountain and soon was inhabited by its power. He is seen as a very dangerous foe, though he has weaknesses. Only those who are deemed as absolutely worthy can once again drink said liquid and control his power, as other, less than worthy hosts are sacrificed and die. With that in mind, he isn't someone who I could see as a threat to the world if he's this easily foiled again and again. Solid B tier though. Winter King is a handsome, charismatic, yet narcissistic kind of guy. He has the same abilities as the Ice King, but without the Ice King's dilemma of having the mental capacity of a TikTok Riz interviewer.
Banana God!
Banana God yourself, princess!
Why did I say that? I hate that word. Never again!
Winter King was able to take the madness of the crown's evil magic and dump it into Princess Bubblegum. And for a long time, his plan worked. Winter King made a winter wonderland of the inhabitants of Ooo, or at the very least the Candy Kingdom. This is a glimpse of a much more serious Ice King who didn't waste his time kidnapping and just made himself a kingdom. He still clearly has weaknesses, like being useless without his crown, and also being dead due to Fiona's interfering with the universe and all that. Yeah, rip. All in all, Winter King gets an A tier because he did end up taking over the world in some way. To go with less insane Ice King, here's more insane Princess Bubblegum, the Candy Queen. She's absolutely insane and down bad for the Winter King. I mean, who wouldn't be? He may be a total manipulative creep, but the man is attractive. Look at that suit. Look at it! Candy Queen still has the same genius intellect that Princess Bubblegum does, although a bit more kooky in a sense. Having the madness of the Ice Crown infused into her brain, it's apparent that she doesn't act normal and can't necessarily do anything right from time to time, even turning her candy people into freaks just like her. Because Fiona and Cake were there to stop her, I don't know if she truly is able to be a serious threat. Just to make it easy on myself, I'll put her right where the Ice King is. B tier. The Scarab is a complete satsack who likes to keep everything in order. He's a bounty hunter who tries to make sure everything is perfect, capturing his fellow auditors for the most nonsensical reasons to imprison them. After hearing Prismo made his own universe, Scarab just decided to pick on the poor pickle maker.
Not my hot and spicy.
And tear his world apart. And yeah, if you can't tell from that, Scarab's abilities are no joke, as he is able to take down anything that comes near him with his weapon. When cut to pieces, he turns his body into separate bugs, moving around and causing a mess when getting to Fiona's world. I'll be giving the Scarab an S tier. He destroys worlds. That's pretty metal right there. Finally, Gold. The true embodiment of discord, a being so powerful, so terrifying, that he makes even the Lich look like nothing more than an angry puppy. Golb can transform and fuse beings together and make something new entirely. He can destroy worlds with nothing more than a flick of his finger. He is the absolute end of the line when it comes to it. The true endgame of it all. When he is summoned, when he is called, that's it. It's all over. This creature shows no true emotion, no malice in its actions, and he doesn't really have any goals aside from just sitting there, staring at nothing in particular while striking whatever foe challenges him and turning them into nothing. Though things get a bit complicated with Golb when we look at Betty. That's right, she's back, baby. Being the true hero of this whole thing, Betty used the blank magic crown to wish for just one thing.
However it has to happen. I wish for the power to keep Simon safe.
And so it came to be. We finally end this video by showcasing the strongest being in the entire universe, fused with one normal human. Betty Groff and Gulb are one, and thus tips the scales as they are the most powerful villain in Adventure Time. S tier all the way. Regardless of Betty, Gulb would have been S tier. Betty just gets a straight shot to the top thanks to her fusing. Look at that thing. Ugh. And there we have it, every Adventure Time villain ranked. Do you agree with my rankings? Did I miss anyone? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what other shows you'd want me to cover like this in the future. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to make sure you see all of my upcoming videos. Hope you have a nice day. See you next time. Also, Abracadaniel is not a villain. He turned bad for 1 second and then got knocked out. I know someone is gonna bring him up, but he's just a misguided, squishy little magic boy. I love you, Abracadaniel. I hope you're well wherever you are.